Good afternoon, everyone. This is Steve Enlin, Director of Customer Success here at Easy Projects. Just want to say thank you for taking the time to join us today for this webinar. We'll be starting in just a couple of minutes. We're going to give people a few more minutes to arrive, and then we're going to get started. It should be a quick and dirty, as we like to call it, presentation today. Just meant to share some cool stuff that we've come up with recently, and it'll be an ongoing effort where we kind of on a weekly or perhaps bi-weekly basis, we'll share some of the new things that we've identified, some of the hacks and cool stuff that we found working with clients, and just want to get it out there to the broader audience. So with that said, we'll probably start in about a couple minutes. Thanks. Alrighty, so let's get this party started. It looks like we've had a rush of people just join us, so I think we've got a good mass of people to get started. Again, I wanted to thank everyone for taking the time to join us. Today I'm joined by David Connolly and Patrick Ikasis as well. David's going to be presenting with myself and showing a few of the cool hacks that he's come up with. This isn't an exhaustive list. This is just a few that we wanted to showcase, and so we're trying to keep it quick and respect everyone's time. And so let's get started. David, are you there? Just want to make sure that you.
Hey, Steve, I'm certainly here.
Excellent. All right. So let's get started. So just a quick agenda, just to keep everybody informed in what we're going to cover. So I'm going to give a quick Zapier demo. Zapier is a great online tool that I'll speak to in just a moment, and I'll give you a quick demo. It's a really easy tool to use, and we're definitely falling in love with it here at Easy Projects in terms of it solving problems for us or integrating with other apps. The things that we're going to demonstrate today are how to create a task on your Kanban board from an email. So let's say you're going through your email in the morning and you identify a task that you want to follow up with later, but you don't want to deal with it now. We'll show you how to add it to your Kanban board so that you can deal with it later. Also, we've had a couple of use cases from customers where they want to create an editorial calendar for their marketing team, and it's something that we've done internally as well, based on tasks and events in Easy Projects that we want to send over to Google Calendar to have a consolidated view of all the marketing efforts. So we've done that. It's pretty cool. David has come up with a pretty elegant, what I'm calling hack for inter-project dependencies using Zapier. So that is something that remains hotly requested on the roadmap, and is something that we're definitely looking at implementing in the future. But in the meantime, for those clients that use this functionality or want to use this functionality frequently and sooner, then we've identified a way of doing that. And then finally, again, from a customer use case, we've created a means of including attachments from Easy Projects, from an Easy Projects message when you get the notification. So I'll let Dave explain the specific use case there, but again, kind of a cool use case. Alrighty, so let's get started. So I'm going to jump right into Zapier. Okay. So here's Zapier. Zapier is an online service that has been gaining massive popularity over the last months, if not years, where basically it is a directory of online services that allow you to connect through Zapier to other tools. And so the list, and I'll give you a quick preview of just how comprehensive it is. So there's, the last time I checked, there was over 750 apps. It's growing. I wouldn't be surprised if it's over 800 at this point. And as you can see, many of the big ones are here. So, you know, you've got all the Google Suite, Facebook, Slack, If you're using it, it's probably here. And if it's not, it'll be here soon, I would guess. So we've embraced this at Easy Projects, and we've built out quite a large library of things that you can do from Easy Projects to these other apps. And so I'll just give you a quick highlight. And so the way that Zapier works is really quite simple. Basically, there's a trigger. So something happens, either in Easy Projects or another app, that triggers the chain of events, or what they call a zap. So for our purposes, let's say that a time log is updated. So somebody changes the details on a time log, that is a trigger. And then on the other end of that chain, you would have actions. So in another tool, let's say QuickBooks Online or another financial tool, you could imagine that updated time log, the details of that updated time log would be sent over to QuickBooks Online. And so the action is a result of that trigger. We've also got searches. And so in the middle of those, the trigger and action, it is useful to sometimes be able to find stuff. So find an activity if it exists, find a time log, find a project. And so you can see that we've hit many of the common use cases in Easy Projects in an attempt to build out the triggers, actions, and searches that'll build you some useful zaps, as we like to call them. One final note when it comes to Zapier is that Zapier is actually quite affordable. And so you'll note that even internally, as we're doing some pretty cool stuff, and we're on the starter program, and it allows us to do almost anything. And so it's really affordable, it's really useful, and with a little bit of effort and possibly some help from us, you'll see some real big benefits. And so if you have any questions about pricing or any of that stuff, you can certainly direct them to us as well, because we're veterans of this stuff now. Alrighty, so let's get moving. So we've got a few zaps here that we've already created. I've got my two here, so I'm going to walk through them and show you exactly what's going on. I'm going to open up my email, and that is not the right email. Alrighty, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and actually start at the beginning. Let's start that way. Alrighty, so I'm going to just walk you through, because this is probably the simplest use case of building a Zap. I'm just going to walk you through the guts of the Zap and building it, and then show you it in action. So effectively, all we're doing is we're saying that whenever I'm in my inbox and I star an email, that means that I want to send it to my Kanban board. And you can see I've got quite a large, I don't want to say large, I've got a busy Kanban board. I use this very much. I love it. I think it's fantastic. Anybody who's not doing this to keep themselves organized, you would benefit from it. In any case, what's going to happen is I'm going to send that task to my backlog. And basically, at some point in time, I'm going to come in and I'm going to say, okay, I need to go and deal with this task. Okay, so the first step is the trigger. So when I go in and I click on that, that's the trigger. Basically, Zapier is looking for me to do that. When it does that, when I do that, it triggers this step, and it basically says, okay, something's happened. What do you want to do with that? And in this case, what I've done, quite simply, is I've sent a task, or I've created an activity rather, in the project that I use for my Kanban board. So that's my personal to-do. I've assigned it a type of a task, and I've given it a status of backlog. And so when this thing runs, it'll be in the appropriate status. It'll be where I would expect it to be for me to go and tackle it at a later date. And then I've just given it a unique name. So I've said, okay, well, who's this email from? That will give me some context. And what's the subject? Again, some context so I know what I'm supposed to do. And then the best part is I can stick the email body into the task itself, into the description. And so in that activity, I've got everything I need to do to deal with that task. Really simple. And so I'll very quickly, so David doesn't have to do this, I'll walk you through actually configuring it. So I'll come in and I'll say, what email account do I want to use? So you can use your Gmail, you can use there are other providers out there that would likely be on Zapier, so I'll go ahead and select that. And I'll say, okay, well, what do I want the trigger to be? Here, I would like it to be a new start email. You can see that there are other triggers. The new email would be a common one, new attachment, new labeled email. So you can see it. Google's also done a good job of providing you with some options there. We'll stick with new start email. We're going to go ahead and use my work email account, and you can test it just to make sure it's connected. And then continue, and you can test it. So let's see. Well, actually, let's go back and get. Alrighty. So here's the email that I wanted, and it's got all the details of that email. So you don't really have to worry about that. That's just basically what we call the payload. That's what's coming from the email, and that's all the data that you can use in this next step when you're mapping that out. So let's go to the next step. I want to go ahead and create an activity. So obviously I want to do that in Easy Projects. Again, you can see you can do a bunch of stuff here. We're going to stay with create an activity, but you can create a project or a time log, all sorts of stuff. I'm going to do that in my official Easy Projects account, or my work Easy Projects account for lack of a better term. Actually, I'm going to make sure I did that right. Yep, okay. Alrighty, as I mentioned before, you just basically go through the required things you have to fill in, and you can customize it to your heart's delight. So if there's a field here, you can choose what data goes in there. It's pretty cool. So we'll test this step. Okay. All right, cool. So you can see that a test activity was sent to Easy Projects about 37 seconds ago. Okay, awesome. So let's go and double check that. I'll do a quick refresh. And you can see that there's a new task on my Kanban board. So in the explanation of all of that and the guts behind it, it's a bit long and drawn out, but I can tell you from firsthand knowledge, this is awesome in the morning when you come in and you're sorting through your emails. So if it's not, as I mentioned, if it's not something that you're going to deal with right away, throw it on your Kanban board, deal with it later. And it's a great way of collecting all of that information. So very, very cool. So I won't belabor that point anymore. I think it's pretty clear. And I'll also reinforce the fact that if you guys have any questions or you want us to kind of walk you through the first few, we're happy to do so because we think that there's a lot of power behind this. And so for the next one, I'm actually going to just demonstrate. So I'm not going to go into the bloody guts of the Zap, but I'm just going to kind of demonstrate the result of it in the use case. So in this case, we're going to turn off my board, and I'm going to create a new project with a new activity. Call this social media launch. You can tell I'm not much for marketing. Okay, so I've got this task called social media launch, and this is the day that some sort of social media campaign is going live. And so the use case here, again, is pretty straightforward. It's you've got a marketing team, or you've got a number of teams within the marketing department that are pushing collateral and information out into the world, and you want a unified view of that. So you can run the projects and you can manage them and report on them all really effectively in Easy Projects, but where's that overhead one-size-fits-all view of what's out there in the world, or what's coming is another question. So what we've done quite easily, turn off all that stuff, and so I'm going to go to a month view, and I'm just going to turn on the calendar. So here is a Google Calendar. So it's it happens to be our internal marketing calendar. This is a bit sparse at the moment because we're kind of still just testing out the Zap and all that other stuff as a concept. But I'll show you how it works. So let's say that this is my social media calendar. And so I want all events that have to do with social media to go to this calendar. And let's also say that I've got an actual events calendar as well. So what I would suggest, and what we've done with other customers, is to, for the type of event, or for the channel, or however you want to separate them, create a separate calendar for that. And then what you can do is you can layer them on top of each other to get a holistic view of all of the different stuff. So you can see that the events, so the actual real events, so event planning and all that other stuff is in green, and then my social media stuff's in brown, I guess. That's a weird color. And so it's a really effective high-level view of what's out there in the world. So making this happen, making this view happen couldn't be easier. So let's go into my social media launch task. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to change the category to publish to marketing calendar. Alrighty, so that's done. I don't need to worry about it anymore. It's going to go to the calendar, and I'm going to show you how that happens. But you can see it's really simple. It's a really easy way to make that happen. The good news is that the way that we've built this is that actually I'm not following my own advice in that I've browbeat a number of people for forgetting to put a date on an event. So obviously, if you try and send an event to a calendar and it doesn't have a date, it's not going to work. So I've corrected that. What I was going to say is that the good thing about this is that if there are any changes to the fields that you have mapped, so obviously dates would be a key field, maybe the title, attendees, whatever is on here can be mapped to that event. If there are any changes to those in the future, so let's say that you decide to hold it on the 14th instead, the Zap will handle that. It'll update it automatically. So you've basically got a dynamic link between Easy Projects and the calendar. So one final piece of information is that Zapier, the way that Zapier works is it basically polls your application on an interval to see if there's anything new, and then takes action based on that. And so the plan that we're on, because it meets our needs, is a 15-minute poll. We don't find that to be too onerous, so it's not immediate. There are other plans. So there's the next plan up, which is again relatively inexpensive, I think. Polls every 5 minutes, and there are Zaps out there. There are other vendors who have, it's up to the vendor themselves and not Zapier, who have basically built them to be immediate. So as soon as it happens, it's like a push rather than a poll. So those exist. You'll notice that some of the bigger players like Google and those types of organizations have built them out to be immediate. But in the worst case scenario, it's 15 minutes. In the best case scenario, it's immediate, and 5 minutes is in the middle. We found it to be not onerous at all. So in the interest of not waiting around, I'm going to actually show you a shortcut. And so you can actually manually run the Zaps when you want, just for testing or if you want to run them. So that's what I'm going to do. It found my updated activity with the, bad presenter. Okay, so it caught me. Next, social, if I could type. Okay, so this time we will remember that dates are important to have something on a calendar. We will publish it. It's that simple. And we'll run it again. And I am confident this time that it will work. Oh. It is possible that it's not picking up on this event and that it's picking up on another one that somebody's published who didn't put a date on. So it's still possible that it's not my fault. Okay. One last try. I feel like David's coming in to give me the hook.
Hey, Steve, do you need to be the assignee by any chance, or does that make a difference? Just wondering.
Nope.
For the calendar. Okay.
No difference. Just you can't buy incompetence like this. All right, here we go. One last try.
We're waiting with bated breath here.
Oh, I'm sure. Found it. Fixed. Oh, all right. Invalid start time. Okay. I'll troubleshoot that offline. I won't take up any more time. But it does work. It's pretty awesome. And I think that if this is a use case for you, just get in contact with us and we'll help you get set up because it really does give you that high level view of your of what's out in the world in terms of your communications. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Dave. And he's going to walk you through his two zaps.
All right, thanks very much, Steve, for that. Hey, everyone. So won't keep you too long. First one I'm going to quickly talk to you about is the inter-project dependencies. Like Steve mentioned, something that is definitely on our roadmap up near the top because we know how important it is to people to have this type of functionality. And for now, we do use Zapier and we do recommend Zapier as a workaround. Not an ideal solution, but it works. So let me pop into Zapier, and I'm going to, first of all, very quickly show you how I built this Zap. So I used a few more fields than Steve did in his ones. So first of all, my trigger is going to be an updated project. So in order to create inter-project dependencies, you obviously need to start at a project being updated. Now what I've done is, in this instance, I haven't actually selected a project to be updated, which means it could be any project at all in Easy Projects, just so I don't have to narrow it down like that. But what I have done is I've included a filter that tells Zapier only continue with this Zap if the project status exactly matches what I've written here. So I've created a unique status for these projects called closed start next project. So I know, and hopefully my team would know, that if they set a project to close start next project, it is going to trigger this Zap to run. The next step then in the inter-project dependencies app is updating a project. So what I've done is the trigger is the project being set to close to start next project, and then the action is updating the next project. I've obviously had to specify what the next project is going to be. So we very quickly switch back to Easy Projects. Phase 1 project is going to be the first project, Phase 2 project number 2, and then Phase 3 will be the third step. So me changing Phase 1 project to closed start next project is going to be the trigger action. Is going to be the trigger. The action then, because I use that status to close the project, is going to be to update this project here. And what I've done is I've said that I want the start date of project to be the actual completion date of the previous project. So similar to how you can build dependencies currently in Easy Projects, where you can say, I want this task to start the day after the previous task ends. Well, you can do the same here in Zapier. So I've said that the start date of project 2 is going to be the actual completion date of project 1, which is fine, pretty straightforward. For the next step then, I've actually used a find function here. So in here I've said that I want you to look up the name of the project I used in this step. So in order to build a sequence of zaps, sometimes you will need to look up what you did in the previous step if you need to pull more data. What I mean by that is if I run this step to update the project, and then if I had another step to update the project, I wouldn't actually be able to find when this project had been marked as complete. So I have to do a lookup here to be able to pull the completed date of this project. I'm not going to stay on this too long because it is kind of hard to explain, and especially if you're only hearing this for the first time. If you do have any more questions about this, please let us know. But suffice to say, this is set up to make sure that the projects, when they're completed, are completed in sequence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my Zap on and actually show you it hopefully working. So I'll pop back to my dashboard and run the Zap. Okay, let me do a quick, whoops. Let me turn back on my completed project for 1 second. Okay. So one more time. Let's go ahead and mark this as closed, start next project. I'm going to run the Zap again. Okay, so if I bring up the completed project one more time, you notice that project 1 is from the 22nd of November to the 7th of December. Project 2, oh, so the Zap is already run. So let's change the start date of project 2 to today, which is the close date of project 1. Which is perfect. That's exactly what I want. If I go ahead again and close project phase 2, start date of project 3 is the 22nd of March right now. And if by some miracle I manage to get this one completed on the same date I'm due to start it, I go ahead and close it. Let me run my Zap one more time. Like so. Do a quick refresh, and hopefully the start date of this will become today. Perfect. So I was able to build a sequence of projects, and using Zapier I was able to connect them all together in the background so that when one project was closed, the next project start date moved up to today. Also, you can, because you have dependencies on your projects, then all your task states would obviously automatically move. And then also with the Easy Projects notifications, you will get notified that, hey, the dates have changed on this project. You can actually now start working on it today. Pretty neat, pretty easy to use. Any questions about setting this up, just let me know. Second workflow, and one which actually someone asked us if we could do, is a file upload. So someone asked us if there's any way that when a guest user receives a notification about a file being added, can they receive the file in the email? Straight away we thought, well, I don't think that's something we can do right now. But then of course we explored Zapier and we discovered that there is a pretty easy way to do it. So if I pop into this Zap, and let me quickly, in this project, add a file. So hello, this here for all those Lionel Richie fans out there. Let me attach an image, a document, can be image, document, PDF, Word, Excel, whatever you like. So I'm going to attach it to my project, and I'm actually going to turn my Zap on. And let me go ahead and run it. Sorry, no, I think I got ahead of myself. Try that one more time. And we'll just test 2. Like so. Go ahead, run the Zap again. This time it's doing something. So here's the regular notification that people will get if they attach a document to a task, which is fine, but you can't actually see the document in the email. You have to go into the task to see it. With Zapier, what we've created is this. So we've created this using HTML in Zapier to say, basically, this is the task name, this is the project, here's the message text, and here's the actual attachment, which you can open in the email itself. So the user isn't required to go into Easy Projects to view the Word, PDF, Excel, whatever is attached. They can view it from their emails directly. Pretty neat, and something without Zapier we wouldn't be able to do right now. And just one quick thing to kind of show you, and maybe explain a bit more about the power of Zapier, is that in Easy Projects we don't store people's email addresses. So what Steve was able to come up with is this neat little piece of code here, which basically maps a username to their email address. So we can see on a task, these are the assignees, and these are their email addresses. And therefore, we could use that to send the email to whoever was assigned to the activity, and then we could also include the attachment. And again, if you want to know any more about this Zap, just let us know. Yeah, so there are the kind of 2 Zaps that I needed to quickly run through. Hopefully you found them useful. As you know, we're always kind of here for any questions that you might have. And once this webinar is done, we're going to send you on a recording of the webinar, as well as a link to a video tutorial which takes you through a bit more detail about Zapier. As always, if you need any help, success@easyprojects.net goes to myself, Steve, and Patrick, and we're always glad to give anyone help who needs it. And then finally, this is something we'll be doing on a regular basis. It won't always be around Zapier at all. It could be anything to do with Easy Projects that we think people should know about. Not necessarily updates or new features, but new use cases that we've heard from people we think, yep, that's pretty good. I think people want to know that. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, thank you all very much for attending, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks everyone for attending. Again, I echo Dave's sentiment that we really appreciate that you guys come out en masse for these things. It reinforces that there's a good community of users out there, and that's the whole reason why we're running these, is that we want to empower you with stuff that we find. So we do intend for this stuff to be a regular occurrence. So keep your eye out for it. We'll always include what we intend to cover, so that if it's relevant for you, you'll know, and you can jump in on it. And if it's not super relevant, then you don't have to come. That said, have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Yeah, it's Thursday. And hopefully we'll talk soon. Okay, thanks everyone.